see if this is working. All right, awesome. We're trying to do the mic. Got multiple things going. Trying something new. All right. Good morning. Good morning. Crazy hair and all, but you know what? I'm digging it. I'm really enjoying this like messy wave thing I've got going on. So I was reflecting since Sunday because when I was at church on Sunday, I just had this really huge breakthrough. Like a huge breakthrough that allowed me to forgive a part of myself that I have buried and forgotten and pushed away for a very long time. Like, I feel so ashamed for who I was and how I acted as a teenager that it's kind of like I honestly couldn't recall a lot of my memory during that time frame, and a lot of things have been coming back to me, especially going through therapy when my daughter was born. Just a lot of stuff came up, and I had this huge moment of clarity after being in church. It was like the missing piece I needed after working with my somatic therapist and going through and like what parts of you are we not accepting? Like we're still self-condemning. We're still feeling ashamed. There's still parts of us we're hiding away. We don't express, we don't talk about, we don't acknowledge, not just in public or like social media, but like in general with ourselves. And I thought it was very important for me to share this because this is the stuff we walk through when we actually step into embodiment and acceptance of who we are and all that we do. Hello, good morning. I'm going to wave to everyone that's on the live here, see if I can. Oh, can I be on a walking pad, tap, and talk? Here we go. Okay. How fun. So, back to what I was saying. Hold on, gotta catch my train of thought here. Like, let me say this very plainly. You are not your past, right? You may be a result of all the things that you have done from past and up to this present point, but you are not your past. Who you were in your past does not define you. Who people thought you were in your past does not define you. And sometimes I feel we almost assume that different parts of us, like throughout our life, people get to know different parts of us, different stages of us. So there are actually people in your life, especially if you moved around a lot or an army brat and grew up in all different places. Every place that I lived, those people would have a different version of me that they would know. And I think sometimes it's easy to forget that not any version of you is better than the one that came before. They're all equally as important and a part of you. So whether you had a lot of pain in your past, whether you had a lot of patterns you're not proud of, or patterns you're trying to break, or generational trauma and patterns that you're trying to break, you are not those patterns. You are not the same person you were before. Even if you go and walk through a new challenge that feels familiar, or you feel like, oh, I'm doing it again, but from a different space, it doesn't mean that you're repeating the same mistake if you're doing it with the knowledge and the wisdom and the lesson you learned from before. And especially when it comes to like business and like money trauma. I gotta slow this down a bit, I'm getting breathy. Sorry. Some people have a lot of investment traumas. They always like over-invested and being over-coached, trying to find someone to show them how to do things the right way. And it's kind of that toxic trait in the back end of like the business coaching industry. It's like you don't need to keep throwing more money down to try and figure things out. You actually need to, most things that are going on in your business that aren't working are because you haven't taken the time to work on you, or to accept you, or to figure out what works for you. You're kind of too busy searching and seeking for someone to tell you who to be and what to say and what to do. So your frequency, your life, right? Think of your life as like an energetic spectrum. The frequency of your life is always going to reflect and radiate the identity that you have accepted and chosen to believe and therefore lead with. Okay? So the question is, are you ready to reclaim what spirit, what God actually made you to be? Because there's your fated life that you've been born into in the circumstance of the world. And then there's saying yes to the destiny. So, for the women here, if you have walked through fire, like me, like you've walked through some intense times in your life, or maybe you've had opposite where you've like shut out and shut down in parts of your life. Maybe you hate yourself for how messy something got in a certain relationship, or mistakes that you've made, or maybe you're like punishing yourself for not knowing any better, waiting for permission to finally move on, to rise up, to have your turn. It's almost like we don't believe we deserve it unless we're doing it for everyone else. Like for me, I had this story in the back of my mind that I didn't really recognize until recently, that I had this deep-rooted little story that I'm not a good person because of the things I did when I was a teenager. And like, I know I'm a good-hearted person. I know that I'm a kind person. I know that I care very deeply for the work that I do and the people I work with, but I still had this little belief that I was not a good person because I have done things in my past I was not proud of. I was mean to people. I spit venom. My words hurt people. I got into fights with people. I ran away, first from my dad in like 2003, and that crushed him. And then I ran away from my mom because I wanted to prove her wrong and refused to move home. And like, I think of how that affects them and how they must have felt. And like, if my kids do that to me, like I would be just ripped apart. And I feel this now. And I really struggled thinking of all the things that I said and did in my life that would have caused harm or hurt for another person, be it my words or my actions. But the thing is, I didn't need permission to move on. I needed to actually accept and forgive those parts of myself and look deeper into why those things had happened in the first place. If I really tune in to what was going on with me back then, I wasn't acting maliciously with the intent to hurt people. I wasn't. When I did spit venom, when I did act out or run away or lash out or do stupid things or hang out with the wrong crowds, it was genuinely out of being like just genuine innocence and naivety. Like I honestly believed if I never lied to anybody, they would never lie to me. Like that was my sweet, sheltered little heart. And I always see the good in people. I always see the person, the soul, before I see their circumstance. And integrating who I could feel and see in front of me versus who they were being was very hard for me to separate for a long time. And I really struggled with emotions, like being overcome with an anger. And I'll get into that in a minute. I'm going to get off track. So give me a little backstory. And feeling like allowing myself to be in bad situations and be in relationships that were harmful. I was self-abandoning myself. I was allowing people to manipulate me, to abuse me, to put me in very unsafe places. And I'm frustrated I didn't walk away sooner. I'm frustrated there's relationships I went back to because I was too afraid of what would happen if I was to move on and they hurt someone I love, and so on and so forth. So I let fear lead me in a lot of ways. And I hated that I allowed fear to take control over me and my mind and my life. Now, granted, I was a teenager, but I always treat myself like I've been an adult forever and I should know better. Because I'm my own worst critic. So the thing is over time, I've had this realization that I used to think of myself as very weak in those moments, but I actually wasn't weak. That power I had was never lost. Like that power was flipped and put into a state of survival. Like I survived a lot of circumstances that I put myself into. And in the end, I came out loving. And regardless of what was done to me and when and by who, I forgave them. I set them free. I wish nothing for the best for them. And I pursue healing others and understanding regardless of what happened. And that's where the real power is, because when I let my heart set the frequency rather than the circumstance, and I don't allow myself to be a victim, I don't allow myself to resonate and stay in that shame of bad decisions or choices, and I don't allow my trauma to take the lead, and that's why I think sometimes people fixate too much on like their money and revenue goals, but they don't actually look at what they need in order to move forward and move on from whatever they're trying to hide or run away from or overcome through these other goals and outlets, be it in business or in life or in relationships. So does anyone kind of pick it up and put it down? Like drop me a few like thumbs up or hearts in the comments if you're kind of like resonating and we here kind of know what it feels like to have like some iffy, years in your past, and if not, you are blessed, and we celebrate that too. I was really stuck. Like, it wasn't until just over a year ago when I found God and I got saved. I was baptized here at a local church, and I was able to start the process of releasing that pattern of self-condemnation, because I did carry a deep-rooted self-hatred. No matter how much I overgave, no matter how much I put myself out there, no matter how much I would give everything to everyone and overwork myself time and time again, because I had this little rooted story that, you know, you're a bad person and you don't want to be a bad person, so you better make up for everything that you've ever done or said. But that wasn't the answer. Because that shame I was carrying was the enemy, right? When I was living in this cycle of feeling ashamed and stuck for who I was and just refusing to even look at it or acknowledge it or move on from it, it blocked me from who I was meant to be and become, because I wasn't putting down the baggage of it all, right? When your hands are full and you're carrying such a heavy load, you cannot openly receive. And knowing, embracing, like feeling like I need to fight and make sure that I always choose the right path and I never want to go backwards. You're always bracing. Fall off my walkie pad. You're bracing for impact. Like, you're ready. Like, I lived most of my life in like a fight or flight state. You know, I would always just run away and turn away and start all over again. And having a children and family now and a wonderful husband, I never want to be like that again. And acknowledging how far I've come, how many patterns I have broken, and that none of the things that I was lacking then, or the knowledge I didn't have then, and not knowing any better, is not an excuse, but it gave me a level of understanding that I really needed to move forward. And even to this day, I would carry guilt and shame if I had a meltdown, whether it was an autistic meltdown or ADHD, overwhelm meltdown. You can't always control in those situations when you start getting really flustered, and you're like, especially before trying meds, you know, you're just like, what is wrong with me? And I would almost feel like that loss of control when an emotion comes over your body would remind me of back then. I was out of control. Things are happening to me. Why can't I stop it? Why can't I be better? Why can't people help me or see me or understand me? And there comes like a fear too of being misunderstood, especially in neurodivergence. We're almost horrified of being misunderstood or taken the wrong way because we don't want someone to be disappointed or upset if it's not what they expected us to say, or, you know, when the mask starts to come off, we don't meet the expectations they have our whole life. We have this sense of guilt of, great, now I'm not good enough, I'm not being who you need me to be. But the thing is, for everything I did, and everything I didn't do, and everything I should have known, okay, God never blessed the masked version of me, and he let me suffer and he let me struggle, because he blessed me with the honesty and the integrity in the heart that I have, and my ability to fully own who I am and to advocate for others to do the same. But I had to own that. I had to say yes. I had to step into that power and that path in my life. Like, I thought power, like to regain my power and like manifest my best self, you know, was to like push myself and force myself to be good enough no matter what. And I was never good enough because I always felt like something was wrong with me. So the power actually came from becoming present, and becoming present with myself, getting in the room with myself, loving myself, accepting myself, forgiving myself, so that I can receive and connect with others who are struggling in the same way. And that's the cause that he works through me and what I do now. Because when I let my heart and my soul lead, it didn't make sense. I had a very successful PMU and tattoo business, but I realized after nearly 2 decades of doing PMU and tattoo, it wasn't just about the artistry. Like, I'm always going to be an artist. That's a whole other rant. But creating that space and the safety for people to come, feel vulnerable, to even like be tattooing or doing PMU, like you're inflicting harm in order for them to feel better about themselves in a way, right? You're inflicting harm and you're doing art on them, whether it's on their face or on their bodies, so that they can express a part of themselves or celebrate a part of themselves or memorialize someone they love. And the action of that and holding that space is what my gift was. So that's what I carry forward. And now I see how that's happened throughout my entire life, even in the seasons that were messy and scary and messed up. I did the same. You know, like I used to bring the meth heads upstairs in the apartment Rice Krispie Squares and try to feed them because I was like, man, these guys like never eat and they're so busy building these bikes. And I would go up there and be like, you guys are so good at building bikes. Like, you should have a store or a business. Didn't realize they were stolen. Didn't put that together for years later. You know, I was only in high school. But I always saw the best in people. I always wanted to help and facilitate and, you know, care for them. And same situations, like even with the boyfriends I had, it wasn't about them allowing them and being weak to manipulate me, but I truly believed in them. And I believed that if I could be there, they would be better, right? I took too much on personally. A lot of it wasn't for me to do, or for me to be. But the intention was there. I wasn't hurting myself because I hated myself. I was just self-abandoning in the belief that other people were more priority over me, and that's what I was meant to do and meant to be. And even with emotion, going back to the emotion part, when emotion would take over me, I was upset with how, we all don't like when we feel angry. You know, like when we feel angry or ragey or we snap, especially when we're stimulating, like snap on your kid and you instantly like, oh my God, sorry, that's not for you. And you go and repair and you realize, okay, I might need to go take a minute. Like, this is not your fault. You did not deserve for me to snap at you right then and there. And when we recognize those moments, I used to hate that it made me feel weak, like it's coming over me. It's all happening again. But those emotions coming out, there's a deeper root. So either it's a trigger or something, like recognizing this is happening because I'm not paying attention to me. I'm not listening. I'm doing something that is impeding with what I require and need. And then looking at my teen years and the anger I carried. Because I was in these situations and caring for these kinds of individuals and putting myself into these relationships with these people, like they were parentless, they were addicts, you know, like my first longtime boyfriend was a recovered crackhead and then a current meth head, and I didn't realize it was meth head until time moved on, which made sense with all the meth heads that lived upstairs. But, you know, I fought tooth and nail standing up for him. You know, no, he's not, you know, this is, and I was blind to it because I didn't know any better at the time, but I would fight in defense of those that I love because I could see and believe in the person that was behind the habit or the harm that was happening. And I had to remember that's the gift. It's holding the safe space, allowing the space to heal, but ultimately they had to choose whether or not they wanted to be better, right? Like I can't make people better. But it was realizing that there was this righteous anger in me when these people were attacked or accused or criticized or looked down upon or shamed. I would react and be angry because I don't believe any person deserves to be treated that way. Now I can see why things were happening and people said these things, but still I believe in the core all humans deserve respect and dignity and a chance to redeem themselves and make better choices. Whether or not they do, that's between them and God. But I look at this pattern, I'm ranting a little bit, but I want you guys to understand, leading from my heart and soul and not focusing on certain goals. Like my goal wasn't to just make people better if they change. It wasn't the goal. My goal was just to survive and stand up for whatever as I believed in then. And I mean, again, teenager, you know, and then I worked jobs in high school and I did the thing and I just basically wanted to prove that I could do whatever I put my mind to. But it led me here, and it led me with a lot of experience and multiple lifetimes worth of lessons so that I can relate to a very wide variety of individuals. I can meet people where they're at. Like I have danced with the devil and seen the darkness of the world, but I still lead with love. I still lead with light, but I can understand where people are at when they're at that level. So that resilience and that ability comes from the seasons we walk through. So anything that you're ashamed of, anything you're not proud of, anything that's a behavior that you don't enjoy or you think is bad for you and you're ashamed of, look at what the benefit is of that behavior, that pattern that you keep repeating, and then make it beneficial for you. Flip it, because you're defaulting to something that you need. Like there is a good reason or purpose for everything that you do, whether or not you're applying it appropriately, is what I'm trying to say. If you're setting goals based on what makes you feel safe, or what you think you should do, or what's going to get you a lot of praise, not what's going to actually make you feel whole or fulfilled or develop you into who you want to become and who you want to be, then your strategy, think of this when you're setting up like your Q3, Q4 strategies, it means nothing if you're building it on that like survival and stuff this all down and just keep building the shell kind of energy. If you're seeking to prove yourself through success and all that you do, rather than getting to know the real you and owning the parts of you, and then understanding how that benefits you, how to anchor into that and use those gifts and those parts of you and those lessons you were blessed with along the way to pursue what you're meant to do, that's the frequency of devotion that's going to set the pace for everything else to follow and flow. And that's the hard reality and honesty that people avoid. And I didn't realize I was still avoiding this until recently. So I have a few prompts I want you essentially to reflect on. So you can journal on these, you can think on them throughout the day if you're listening live. If you're in my CEO Circle membership and you're watching this on the replay or you're watching live, you can come into our group chat and reflect on these. So I do have a couple prompts I'll pull up here. So in everything that you're doing, I want you to take time to reflect, like reconnect with all the parts of you throughout your life. Are there parts of you that you've been avoiding or kind of forgot about? Like, you can even take a couple days to think on this. And then ask yourself, looking where you are now, in what you're pursuing, are you building from a space of continuously trying to protect or pretend to move on from it? Almost like in an avoidance, distracted kind of way. Like you're just going to keep going and playing over here and ignoring what's happening over here. Or are you actually leaning into and redirecting and recalibrating your energy and frequency to fulfill your purpose, your passion, and to let it power you in all that you do? Are you chasing like numbers and whether it's your bank account or enrollments or whatever, are you chasing results over becoming whole and working through the resistance and the regrets that are actually holding you back and making you feel stuck? Because you're not actually stuck. You're just believing you're stuck because you're not actually doing the work to move on. Sometimes it's a little messy. And sometimes you got to feel some things you didn't want to for a long time. But you also have to allow yourself to feel and learn how to feel safe having all kinds of feelings. I know it sounds silly, but most of us are just walking around a bunch of giant 8-year-olds that don't have any emotional intelligence, and we all work on that. Because, a lot of us had to just shove it down and do our thing and move on. What if you let yourself cry? What if you let yourself feel? What if you let yourself just rest, wait, do nothing? What if you stop pushing and forcing and start asking for what you need? Getting clarity, getting help. Maybe you thought about seeing a therapist and never actually went and saw him. Maybe you should go do that. How can you take care of you? Maybe you have to move your body more. Maybe there's something that's been calling you that you wanted to do for yourself that you've avoided. But why are you avoiding it? Are you afraid of what you'll uncover? Are you afraid of sharing or being vulnerable? Or what are you afraid that someone's going to find out about you? And then go work on that and own that and decide and discover what it is about that is working for you and what is meant to come forward in what you do. Like taking the radical responsibility and flipping into the cause state of mind, like taking responsibility for the actions of what you do and what you can control to move forward, rather than playing like that victim mindset and being a sucker for circumstance. Like, all these things happen to me, it's just who I am, and kind of becomes an excuse. We don't want to lean into the excuse. We don't need to give excuses power. You need to give things that happen to us power. You don't need to re-victimize yourself time and time again. And you don't have to share the deepest, darkest secrets. This can be just for you. But what came from that? What was the gain? There's always a gain, even if you don't know. Get too distracted playing the game, you ignore what the gain was, even in the gross parts of it. So, switching from the cause, the responsibility, into the effect and the ownership. I want you to think about that. Where are you still playing the victim? Where are you still allowing these excuses to be the reason you're not moving forward in some way. And what are you getting out of it? What are you gaining by not doing the thing? You know, for a long time I said my body betrays me. I spent a lot of my life being sick. And that had a big part on like how I always felt powerless, because no matter what I did, my body was sick. Doctors couldn't figure out why. Later on, you know, with being celiac and allergies and all the things, it's like, I'm powerless. I can't control this. There's nothing I can do to change it. But it's like, what I can eat better for my body. I can learn how my body works. Instead of looking at all the things I can't have or can't do, what can I do? What do I want? Instead of just throwing yourself a pity party and then pitter-pattering around doing the real work, what can you do to regain a sense of control and work for you? And that cause state of mind too, like taking responsibility, owning that you have been blessed with a gift, especially as a creative, multi-passionate soul. You have a gift and the ability to co-create with God every single day. And then he gives you that gift so you can go and co-create with others in the work that you do, in your area of expertise, and any opportunity open to you every single day. But do you? Or do you put all the other things on your to-do list first? What if you were equally as important as everyone and everything else that you think you had to do today? What if you decide you're no longer going to live from the excuse of, oh, I can't do that because I've been through this before, this is what I've learned, and this is what I will do going forward. Like, anchor into what your power is here. You know, this version of you now, there's a part of you you've carried that's always been you, but what parts of you are not really you and are just a bunch of should-dos? Like, where can you say, I am no longer to be available for, like for me in my past, I'm no longer available to be at the mercy of what I have survived and been through. I am here to take ownership and authority over my life because I am not what happened to me. I am who I choose to be and embody now. So that's my example, but like, what is it for you? And I would love for you guys, you want to own this, like journal on it, and then speak it out loud. Go into your stories and speak that statement out loud. Say that to yourself. Don't just read affirmations that you find online or in a deck. Okay, that's cool. And I mean, I've done that too. But when you have an affirmation like this, that's reframing and rewiring your core belief, that's who you need to be. That's who you want to move forward as. Your belief does not create who you are in your identity. Your identity is what backs your belief. So if you're identifying as the type of person who has messed up and made a lot of mistakes, well, do you feel powerful and strong in that sense? No. But if you identify as a person who has walked through some intense situations in a whole variety of individuals and still came out loving, kind, curious, and more powerful than ever, and lit up, and it gave me courage. When I have moments where I fear or feel anxious, I'm like, I'm not actually anxious because look at what I have survived. Like, I've died a couple times, come back. So like, why am I afraid of dying if I already came back? Clearly I'm meant to be here. I'm meant to be doing something. Like, you got to kind of reframe, right? Don't let fear take the lead. Fear will always be there, but faith will teach you how to fight it. Too many people wait for it to just go away. Fear will never go away. You have to choose to fight it and follow through regardless. So let this be your call forward. This was not actually in my plan, but I was sitting here thinking on it and I was too lit up. I was like, you know what? I'm really in this season of just speaking up and speaking out. And these are things I don't think need to be kept to myself, because I know with a lot of my clients that I work with, they carry a lot of shame in being neurodivergent and being multi-passionate and not being enough, in things not working yet and not figuring it out. Whether it's they feel like they're a burden, or they feel like they've wasted resources, or they feel like they've wasted time, or they feel like that they're just a waste, or they feel like no matter what they do for anybody, no one's ever really happy and they still get shit on. And it's like, well, that's because you're not really happy and you still shit on you. How you choose to lead yourself and believe in yourself is demonstrating how you want others to too, whether you realize it or not. That is an energy. That is the frequency. Whew. Getting all excited. I have to take a breath for a second. All right. I think that concludes my rant. But I mean, my whole offer suite has shifted so much. Like, I have simplified a lot. I've gone through the focusing only on high ticket stuff. I've gone through, 40K months, and like that was the focus, and back-to-back trainings, and running a school, running a coaching business, doing services. Like, I did it all. And doing it all was not the answer, because I was still self-abandoning. I was still putting other people's needs before my own. I was still not listening to what I wanted and needed, which was to restructure and rebuild my business and my life in a way that works for me and my family. I would have been home more and working part-time doing all these things, but I wasn't really present because I was too busy still trying to juggle and manage and do all these things. When I started getting honest with where I'm at and what I want and what I've walked through, it's like I didn't go through all that to be hustling this hard now. I did the hustle. I deserve to be happy and play and do things my way, and you do too. But you have to start saying yes. And what does that look like for you? This is why something big is coming. Low-key, kind of didn't really plan. I forgot that I put these on here before I went live, but I guess you're getting a little bit of a sneak peek. Something big is coming soon, as well as my signature mastermind coming this fall. So stay tuned. We'll be talking more about it soon, but it's going to be for the women who are absolutely freaking done pretending. Not just in the sense of like I am the brand. This is like getting into the core, cracking that ish open and moving forward from soul. And, I want you guys to really take a moment today and like say this out loud to yourself. Like, I will not shrink or stuff myself into some stupid little box just to feel safe or secure or accepted. I no longer am available for numbing out and disassociating from a life that was meant for me to live. And I am ready to lead with the flow and the fire, not the frazzle and the frenzy. Say that to yourself today. Believe it. Say it till you believe it. And if you don't believe it, what's coming up for you? Like, DM me and let me know what's coming up for you. And if you're in my CEO circle, you can drop it in the group chat. This is the power of tuning in and owning your voice, your heart, your soul, and moving forward in all that you're meant to do and meant to be and to be known for. That's why I made Take the Stage that's coming out in August. We start August 1st. Actually, the pre-work is dropping July 22nd. So if you're not in there yet, you want to get in there because we'll be dropping pre-work next month. It's still in the early bird pricing for only $97. So if you want to get in there and get into the pre-work, like this is a space to really up your visibility, not just like a look at me and see me kind of challenge. It's 21 days of like owning your visibility in the sense of your voice and owning your authority and your expertise in order to embody that power and that presence that you carry. So it's not about just getting loud in hopes that someone will hear you. This is about speaking up so that you can stand out and the people who are meant to work with you and to be with you, that you are calling in, that you are commanding, can hear you and will hear you and will want to work with you. If you're in my CEO circle, you can head over in there because you do have a members discount. And if you want to get the members discount, join the CEO circle. You can just DM me if you want some info on those options. But yeah, something big, super is coming this fall. I can't wait to share it with you. But this is what I've been walking through. And I love how God gives me these lessons before a launch. It's like you just really got to anchor in the experience and the next level lesson that I need to bring to those spaces. And it's so incredible to see how this effortlessly just flows in and out of everything that I now create and make. I don't have to force and think of what to do or what to make. It's spoken to me. I move into it and it just effortlessly flows out because that is what's meant to be. And it gets to be that easy when you are in your own energy and not so busy picking and choosing and reverse engineering everyone else's. So if this hit for you today, please shoot me a fire emoji in the DM, because when I close this, I won't be able to see the things. But if this resonated, shoot me an emoji. Use your favorite one, whatever resonates with you, whether it's fire or like electric or like some woohoo, hallelujahs. I don't know. Let me know what resonated with you, and I'd love to hear. Come chat with me. My inbox is always open. And if you want to go a little bit deeper, I'll give you a few journal prompts. I love giving prompts with every audio drop in my CEO circle. So I guess this will be like a little taste. I'm going to give you a few extra things to reflect on, because that's what's coming through. What have I been secretly punishing myself for? Who am I being, or who do I become when I trust God more than I trust who I've been? When I trust and surrender to a higher power, who do I become? Who do I become when I release my past? When I release my pain? When I release my shame? It's a little messy, but there's a question in there. What would my life feel like if I let my heart and my soul lead rather than my fear? Let me know. Let me know. Okay, I love you. And on that note, until next time.